Morning, BiggerPockets. Mindy, I just wanted to thank you. You're the one that actually reached out to me after reading my member blog. So I really appreciate you reaching out. It's actually kind of funny that you did that this week. So this month actually marks the 1 year anniversary of my first investment purchase. And this is actually the week that I was planning on applying for the podcast. So that was perfect timing. Thank you. So my name is Ian Reeves. I am an investor in Kansas City. I'm actually from Washington, up there in another small podunk town, kind of like Brandon Turner, so I can relate to him on that front. But I've been here in Kansas City for the last several years. So about 3 years ago, I'm going to give you just kind of a quick recap of my story. So about 3 years ago, I got really into personal development, and I just kind of always felt like there was something more, but I couldn't quite figure out what it was. Things just didn't quite feel right with the way that my life was going, and I was trying to figure out how I could change that. So I didn't really know what to do, so I just started reading. And first, it was just a bunch of personal development type books and things like that, and working on my confidence, all sorts of things. And one thing led to another, and I eventually ended up reading the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And as with many, that was the book that really changed the way that I thought about wealth and money, and that was the book that really got me interested in real estate. So after reading that book, I committed big time, and I decided I was going to learn how to invest in real estate. So of course, the first thing you do when you're trying to learn how to do something is get on Google. So what do you know, BiggerPockets popped up. So BiggerPockets, when I found it, I was blown away by all the resources that were on there. And I was hooked big time. So and it wasn't just the resources, it was it's really the culture that you promote of people helping people out, and all the values that you guys promote. I just really connected with that big time. And anyway, so I think over the next 4 months or so, I listened to every single podcast. I bought all the BiggerPockets books, the book on investing, rental property investing, and the book on investing with low and no money down. Those were my two favorites, and I've been recommending those ever since. I actually just recently bought this book, Set for Life, so that's my next one on the list to read. But you guys put some great content out there, so I spent probably about 4 months on my education. It was just reading like crazy. I think I read 50 something books in 4 months, business and real estate books, and I finally pulled the trigger. So my first investment was a duplex, the 3.5% down FHA house hack duplex. So I guess I really kind of connected with Brandon because I stole a lot of his ideas. So I thought that was a great way to get started. So I'd actually, at this point in my life, never owned a home before. And, I all of a sudden became a landlord. It was actually a distressed duplex, so I had to fix up the side that I was going to live in. So pretty much got to do a rehab, got to be a landlord, and got my first investment property all in one shot. So that was pretty awesome. So that was my first deal. The second one was a subject to deal. And, that was, for being my second deal, that was definitely a learning experience. That's quite the process to do, but I did a lot of networking, and I was fortunate to meet some people through my REIA club here that had actually done that before, and they kind of, when I get to a sticking point, they help me. So I got through that, and then at that point I was more or less out of cash, so I was like, how do I keep investing here? And at that point I'm a mechanical engineer is my normal job, and at that point they were actually trying to force me back out to a job site. So I ended up leaving my first company, and I went to a new company, and that ended up actually being a blessing in disguise because that liquidated my company stock portfolio. I got vacation payout and some other things, so I basically had a big chunk of money to work with again. And that was the time that I met my first partner, Matt, and we really connected. We had a lot of things in common, but we also kind of had opposing strengths, which I think is a really good thing in a partnership. So his strengths were my weaknesses and vice versa. So that obviously took some time to develop, but we started off right off the bat with 2 houses. We bought 2 houses, and we decided we were going to focus on the BRRRR strategy. So I thought that was just a genius idea. So we did those first two BRRRR houses, went pretty well, and things really started snowballing quickly after that. So at one point I met my second partner, Mike, and I had no intention of working with him. I was actually buying a house from him. That's how I met him, and we just stayed after and talked, and we just hit it off and connected. And I said, kind of in passing, if you ever have a deal that's too big for you to take down, give me a call. And he did about 2 weeks later. And so I have a W-2 income and the W-2 job, and obviously that helps a lot with the lending and getting loans and things like that. And so both of my partners are full-time real estate investors, and it's difficult for them to get the good loans. So that really kind of helped out the partnership. So long story short, we really started growing after that. I was able to raise some private funds to help with our growth, and we just scaled and just started doing more and more houses, mostly BRRRR properties, but we also, to raise some additional money, we started doing a few flips and a couple turnkeys as well. So right now we have 9 rehabs going on at the same time, and we've been, ever since those first 2, we've been doing multiple houses at a time. So a little crazy to think that I'd never owned a home a year ago, but that's that's the way it's been going. So that's pretty much how the first part of my investment career has gone. Now so we have 54 units, 17 and 8 of them were in 2 purchases. So this just happened in this last month, so that was kind of why I was waiting to submit this, because I wanted to be able to tell the story of those 2 deals. So the first deal was an 8-unit apartment complex, and we actually just closed on that last week. And then we have 17 units of commercial space that we just closed on, and that one in itself that's kind of the one that put us over the edge. So long story short, my partner Mike, he's always been interested in doing commercial space. And when I say commercial space, so this is like small strip center type commercial space. So these buildings have like an H&R Block and a CPA and attorney and things like that. And he's always wanted to do commercial. And I'll be honest, I was a little hesitant at first, but we pretty much just turned him loose and let him make offers, and he made a really low ball offer on it was 3 buildings, and they'd been on the market for about almost a year. So he made him a really low ball offer, and to our shock, they said yes. So we kind of started at that point, obviously doing a little digging, because we weren't expecting him to say yes. And it turns out this property, along with some other property, was previously owned by this, he was a businessman, he was a developer, and at one point he had a lot of property, and this was kind of what was left. So he'd sold off a lot of it, and when he passed, he left his kids a lot of money and also these properties. So the kids were all out of town, and they just didn't want to deal with it. And it was kind of the classic story of best case circumstances for us. They didn't need the money, and we ended up making him an offer on the whole package. So it was 5 buildings, 17 units, and then we also got 3 vacant plots of commercially zoned land. So we offered 1.2 million on this package, and ended up appraising for 2.4. So that was a huge slam dunk for us, and I learned a lot in that process because I'm actually the one that raised the funds for that, and I structured the deal. So we did 90% of that with investor funds, and I ended up raising the capital and structuring the deal and putting it all together. So with the help of my partners, so that was pretty cool. And that was kind of the grand finale for this year, and it's been pretty dang awesome. So I really appreciate this opportunity to potentially be on the podcast, and whether I am or not, I really appreciate everything you guys do. You've made a huge impact on my life, and it's just, I can't even begin to describe the confidence doing something like this. Just the way it makes me feel. It's awesome, and there's just a whole new world of possibilities now that wasn't there before, and it's because of real estate investing. So thank you guys. I really hope I get the opportunity to meet all of you and shake your hand and say thank you in person one day. So thanks.